A hearing is taking place tomorrow, and at some point, Koberger is expected to plead guilty to the 4 counts of murder to avoid the death penalty. We are bringing back 21 News legal expert Brian Kopp to get a better understanding of what's likely behind the plea deal versus a trial seeking the death penalty in the legal world of things. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, a lot of people following this case. It's, just such a high profile one that struck a lot of people with the 4 victims. Brian, why do you believe prosecutors went for the plea deal?
Well, I think superficially, the process of a death penalty case, and we've seen them in our local area, we've seen them down here in the Tampa office, the time commitment, the appellate process, they can be almost never ending, the litigation process. So without knowing what the evidence was or the discussions behind closed doors, my gut is the drain that this trial, the appellate process, and everything that goes with it, from jury selection to motion practice to the sentencing aspect, all of these things, if there's a way to put somebody away and they can never get out, you can understand that maybe turning the page from the prosecution standpoint in their eyes was the right thing to do.
Yeah, the judge refused to take the death penalty off the table.
Yeah.
Do you think that that was, an answer to the defense, maybe not necessarily the prosecution swaying one way or the other on that decision?
Well, these are the things. I mean, you're talking about at a trial court level interpretation of what the Supreme Court says is some sort of mental capacity issue with somebody that could be subject to the death penalty case. If memory serves me correct, this was about whether or not there was some form of autism or some form on the spectrum that would have made the death penalty a form of unacceptable punishment in the appellate process. So while that was denied by the trial court judge, it is an appellate issue. Do I think it was a winnable one? No, but think about it. When the government is going to take somebody's life, every protection allowable or imaginable by law is pretty much afforded that a person that could lose their life as a matter of a government sentence. So if you play those things out, the time is overwhelming.
Do you think the prosecution was lacking anything in the key evidence in the case?
This is the thing about modern trial work. I think it's always had a lot of uncertainty in my world, in any world where people are talking to jurors. But with the way social media covers things now, the way the media covers things, the way people formulate opinions without any bearing on evidence, think about how difficult it would be to pick a jury in this case. Think about whether or not you have one outlier that, no matter how overwhelming the evidence is, one way or the other, was predisposed to a certain outcome. So do I think that there's evidence and maybe issues that could have created some sort of pause on behalf of the prosecutors? Always. Arrogance is what loses a lot of trials for people when they have very good cases. And the lack of certainty, I'm sure, played into both sides of this equation.
Now, some speculate maybe also the cost to hold someone on death row. You mentioned the appellate process. That's a factor. I mean, how much does it cost if you're waiting to face execution for years and years? Does that drain the system? Do you think they maybe thought of that too?
Well, I mean, if you look back, think about when we see reports of somebody being executed, regardless of the state, how long that's been. I mean, there was an execution here in Florida, if I'm not mistaken, the conviction was in the late 90s. So 20 some years, somebody's been going through the appellate process. If you consider all of that and the way that you bounce between state court and federal court on habeas motions and things like that, it just, I'm not weighing in one way or the other for or against the death penalty, but when you think about the drain on the system in a local county prosecutor's office or a local DA's office, what that means, I don't want to discount the loss to the family in any way, shape, or form, but they have to live through that too. All of the victims live through that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, as always, to help us on this. I know that there's going to be a hearing tomorrow. We'll all be watching to see what comes out of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.